All right. So we are going to talk about submitting a grant proposal for VITA funding from Cash. As many of you know, the Cash Campaign of Maryland is a nonprofit whose mission is to promote the economic advancement of low to moderate income individuals and families in Baltimore. And with the help of our dedicated partners, you all, we're able to advance our mission throughout the entire state of Maryland. As always, you can learn more about Cash by visiting our website, cashmd.org. And that, of course, is where you will also find the grant application. As you all know, one of the ways that Cash accomplishes our mission is by offering free financial services and programs to low to moderate income Marylanders. And our most popular program that we offer is free tax preparation. So for those individuals and families whose household made $67,000 or less in 2024, they may qualify for free tax preparation, which we provide through the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance or VITA program.
I will definitely send them upstairs. Sorry.
Hey, Odetta.
Hey.
Additionally, on top of free tax preparation, everyone might not know this, but we do provide free financial education workshops. There are recordings of workshops as well as live workshops available on the Maryland Cash Academy website, covering a range of topics like tracking your spending, creating a budget, how to build, improve, and repair your credit, debt repayment, cryptocurrency, financial technology, home ownership, you name it. We also have a coaching program as well as a screening program for public benefits called the Earned Benefits Program, screens individuals for their eligibility for utility and energy assistance, nutrition assistance, and more. Like I said, we offer free financial coaching and free financial planning services to help clients reach specific measurable financial goals like paying down debt or saving for a down payment on a new home. And we partner with pro bono certified financial planners to provide limited financial planning services at no cost. And then, of course, in addition to the services for our clients, Cash works with organizations and practitioners to bring the same services and programs to their populations, and also advocates for policies that improve financial well-being for low-income Marylanders. Well, let's dig in on that tax part, everyone here's favorite part. Last season, Cash and you all, our partners, our subgrantees, operated 54 tax sites across the state and prepared over 17,800 returns statewide. And that number is continuing to growing with Cash's back tax program and partners who are remaining open across the state. Many of you are here today. As of April 30th, Cash and our partners helped return over $28.3 million in refunds to families throughout the state, which included $11.8 million in federal and state earned income credits, $5 million in child tax credits. And together, we saved Marylanders approximately $5.9 million in tax preparation fees. So give yourself a pat on the back. These are very impressive numbers. We continue to grow and get back to those pre-pandemic levels every year. And we're excited to keep growing this coming year. And how we're going to do that is through giving you all some money to make sure it can happen. So we are going to talk about the grant that Cash offers for our VITA tax partners to open and run free tax preparation sites. For anyone who is not familiar, we will start with a little bit of background about the IRS VITA program. VITA is an acronym, stands for Volunteer Income Tax Assistance. And the VITA program is overseen by the IRS and has been operating for more than 50 years. The program offers free tax preparation services to qualifying low to moderate income individuals and families and helps them access high quality tax preparation services from trained and certified volunteers. VITA helps people claim helpful tax credits like the EITC that can really make up a large part of their refund and bolster their financial reserves for the year. And for the upcoming tax season, the income eligibility will be $67,000 for individuals and families. To start, let's take a look at our target organizations for funding. Cash works with other nonprofits, government entities, and organizations with fiscal sponsorships. Some examples of these organizations that we work with and fund for VITA include public universities, community action agencies, faith-based organizations, nonprofits that provide workforce development, economic empowerment programs, housing services, and other wraparound services. So with this grant, we are looking for organizations who are 501c3 nonprofits or who are fiscally sponsored by a 501c3 nonprofit. as well as state or local government entities in the Maryland and DC area. Ideally, your organization is currently providing free tax preparation services, conducting outreach in the community, or providing financial capability services or other wraparound services that support families in Maryland. And if that sounds like you, we of course encourage you to apply. As you can see on this map that is a little blurry, I try to find a clearer version. I don't think it exists, but CASH and its partners, all of you, are present in 17 counties and all the major regions of the state. We want to keep that presence up and continue to support these counties. And we also want to make sure we're reaching our ultimate goal of ensuring free tax preparation is available to all Marylanders. So we are really focusing as we move into the future to grow in rural and suburban populations. Any counties where CASH is not currently present, organizations in areas that have little free tax preparation infrastructure to reach low-income communities, and organizations that are serving recently arrived immigrant communities. So just a plug, help us spread the word with organizations in your network. There can never be enough VITA services to go around. All right, so talking specifically about the funds that we at CASH distribute. These funds that we distribute to partners are subgrants. This is money that has been granted to the CASH campaign. The funds we have for VITA grant making are blended funding sources. Some are federal funds, which includes the IRS VITA grant, state funds, which includes an annual state appropriation, as well as private funds from various foundations. For my finance people in the room, many of you often want to know where your specific funds come from. If that is a concern or anything for you, you can reach out to me to make sure we know which funds are going to you, or just clarify where the funds that you are being subgranted are coming from. All right, let's talk about grant requirements. So all awardees must adhere to the following requirements. So if you apply for the CASH VITA grant, these are the requirements. The primary finance contact must attend a webinar outlining the allowable uses for grant funds and reporting procedures. We'll hold that in December, just like last year. All site managers or site coordinators must attend CASH site manager training, which will offer both in person and virtually. And each site must have a minimum of 2 trained and certified site managers. Tax sites must be open for a minimum of 6 weeks between January and April 15th. And sites must be open for a minimum of 8 hours per week unless otherwise approved by CASH. If you operate multiple sites, all of your site hours contribute towards this minimum. Partners and site managers must remain in contact with CASH throughout the entire grant period. You know you can't get rid of us. Grantees must submit invoices in a timely manner. Grantees must submit required end-of-season reports in a timely manner. And in order to invoice for the entire grant amount on May 15th, which is typically our final invoicing period, grantees must meet 80% of their proposed metrics by April 30th and continue offering services to meet the metric. And the remaining grant amount will be dispersed upon meeting 80% of the target by June 30th. This will be all outlined both in the application as well as on the award agreements for those who are selected to receive funding. But if you do have any questions about any of these grant requirements, we will do a Q&A after this webinar today. And also, of course, I'm available as you're working through your application if you have any concerns. There were some details about invoicing and that being a requirement. So wanted to just clarify that. Signed grant agreements for those who receive the grant will be due December 6th. Grantees will invoice for up to half of their total grant amount on March 17th. And that is accompanied with all kinds of fun required documents, a W-9, an ACH authorization form, an updated budget template, and supporting documents for expenses. And then grantees will invoice for the remainder of their grant amount on May 12th. The invoice, again, has to be accompanied by an updated budget template and supporting documents. And again, there is this I don't even want to say stipulation because most often it's not something that we do encounter, but in order to invoice the entire grant amount at the final date, we are requiring the grantees meet 80% of their proposed metrics by the end of the month of April. For reporting requirements, everyone who has received a CASH VITA grant before is familiar, but grantees are required to submit an end of season report on May 12th this year or next year on site production, volunteer data, and client demographics. This report will also include opportunities to provide feedback for cash and the technical assistance that we provide. If grantees continue to operate past April 30th, they will be asked to submit final numbers upon site closing or by October 1st. And grantees in specific counties will also be asked to submit shorter quarterly progress reports on site production, volunteer numbers, and client successes. That third bullet point where it says just specific counties is because, like I said, the funds that we use for these grants come from various sources. So we have grants that we receive that have distinct reporting requirements, whereas everyone falls under the VITA reporting requirements, which is the big end of season report. All right, so this is a new slide if you were here last year. Last year, a lot of applicants asked for guidance on how much funding they should apply for. So on the screen, we've got some guidance. You'll see funding guidelines for funding amounts based on return production. The awards that cash grants range from $5,000 to $50,000. The average award amount last year was $25,000, so right in the middle. What I really want to emphasize is that these tiers really are guidelines. They are not hard and fast rules. They're not guarantees of the level of funding you will receive or strict limitations. We have everyone at Cash has run a VITA site at some point or another, and we know the cost of running a VITA program is not only connected to the number of returns filed. So in your application, you will complete a budget narrative. That is really important. Use this piece, the budget narrative, to explain how you'll use your requested funding amount, including specifics around how you plan to grow and strengthen your site this season, potential reasons for needing higher funding than in a past year or than in one of these indicated tiers. Examples that we know are huge realities are rural sites with very few volunteers, so you have a higher need for more staff that is hired. You're a new site building capacity and need to spend on things that are going to last you for years to come. So please use that budget narrative to really explain how the funding is going to help your VITA site be successful. And then you'll have an opportunity, or you'll be required to submit a draft budget, which you'll also provide those details in. All right. For those of you who are new to running a VITA site, or if you just want a refresher, we encourage everyone to view the IRS's publication 5088, which is the site coordinator training, as well as 5683, the VITA handbook for partners and site coordinators. These are both going to be linked in the FAQ document that we'll have on our website and we'll send out. And these resources contain helpful information about the program's guidelines, required forms and agreements, equipment, volunteer recruitment, certification, the ever-emphasized quality site requirements from our spec friends, VITA programs and policies, and more. So even if you have run a VITA site for many years, we encourage you to check these out, familiarize yourself with the requirements, just even as a refresher if needed, when you are submitting your proposal for funding, as this will ensure that you have a strong grasp on the things like quality site requirements, volunteer standards of conduct, the roles and responsibilities of site coordinators, IRS equipment, security requirements, and more.
Lucy, sorry to cut you off. Is
Yes.
it possible to go back to the previous frame
Yes.
for a quick second?
Yep, and I'll send the slides out and we'll also have the recording available.
Thank you. Yeah,
And
that's
again,
good.
Great. And it doesn't say this on the slide, but remember, these are guidelines. We wanted to make it easier for you all who asked in the prior years how much they should apply for. These are guidelines on basically what we've seen in the past few years, as well as, as a coalition, the way we're working to get back to our pre-COVID numbers and really provide more tax preparation across the state. All right. So the RFP, the request for proposals, officially launched this Monday, July 15th, and proposals will be accepted until Monday, September 30th at midnight. After September 30th, Cash's team of evaluators will take some time to review all of the submissions, make sure each of the proposals are complete. Oops, my apologies, and make award decisions. We use a rubric with various criteria that is aligned with the questions that we ask in the application itself. Once we make determinations about funding, organizations will be contacted and notified about their funding by Friday, November 15th at the latest. And then, like I mentioned before, for all accepted applications, a mandatory webinar will be held on Wednesday, December 4th. This is where we need your financial contact to attend the webinar, whoever is sending in those invoices, and program contacts are welcome to attend as well. At this point, I'm going to have Megan drop 2 links in the chat, actually 3 links. And I'm going to go through just quickly what the application looks like and how you can access it. Oh, before I do that, I'm going to tell you about a new grant payment method. So jumping the gun a little bit, but for those who receive funding, we are transitioning to a new payment method. All of you learned about our QuickBooks error issue. We were not allowed into QuickBooks, but we're going to transition to Bill.com for payments. To ensure timely payments moving forward, your organization can link with Cash's Bill.com account now or anytime in the future using a PIN number that is on the screen. I will also include that in the FAQ that we send out. All right, while Megan is getting those links, we are going to review how to begin your application. We're using the same platform as last year called Common Grant Application. There is a YouTube video that can orient you to the platform. It's specifically about our application, walks you through the process, and the technicalities, shows you how to save, how to return to your work, how to download it as a PDF if you would like to. Feel free to check that out. Megan also dropped in the chat 2 links. One is for new applicants who need to register with the platform. All you'll have to do is enter some basic information about yourself and your organization. But if you applied via Common Grant last year, you can visit the login link and log in using your username and password from last year. Once you log in, you will see the homepage of the Common Grant application and Cash's RFP, or Cash's application for free tax preparation and financial capability. You will complete the application on this platform, but you can download a PDF copy of the application. You can see on the left-hand side here where it's circled in red. That way you can download a PDF if you'd like to work on it offline and then enter everything in the end. Alternatively, you can save each page, each step as you go. All right, let's take a look at the application itself. It's very similar to last year. There's only a few small changes. You'll, of course, first see the introduction, which has information about the Cash campaign, grantee requirements, and a review of Cash's role with respect to subgrants and the level we are able to fund. You can see, just like last year, the funding range is $5,000 to $50,000. And we've already discussed the eligibility requirements for grant recipients and our funding priorities, but the introduction reviews that information as well. Next, you'll be prompted to enter your contact information. Here's one of those small changes that you'll see for this year if you're a returner. We are asking this year for a finance or development contact, the person who is going to be submitting invoices and who we should contact in regards to anything like that, as well as a program contact. That's the person who is likely familiar with how the sites are run, is in touch with other site managers, might be a site manager themselves. If it's the same person, enter the information in both sections. Next, you'll be prompted to share your organization's mission statement, your federal EIN, which is your employer identification number, and if you are an organization with fiscal sponsors, those organizations are welcome to apply, and we ask that you please provide us with supporting documentation about your fiscal sponsorship. There's a designated area in the attachments, which we'll get to in just a minute. All right. Next, you'll list the amount of funding you are requesting in your proposal. It reminds you, of course, our awards range from $5,000 to $50,000. Average award amount is $25,000. You will come back to discuss about your budget in more detail at the end of the application. You'll choose from a drop-down menu if you're a new or established VITA program, and then we'd like you to identify some of the target populations you plan to serve with your VITA program. Checkbox menu, you can select multiple options. Low to moderate income taxpayers and rural areas are the target areas for Cash when we apply for the VITA grant. So that's why those are the 2 listed here. If you serve another target population, please let us know by clicking other, and you can describe them in the text box below. And then you will write in the county or counties that you plan to serve through your program. Next is the mission alignment section. This section is really important to our grant readers, which come from all areas of the CASH team. We want to know why offering VITA services matters to your organization. We also want to know about the buy-in from your organization and your staff and your community. Essentially, we need to know it's not just about the grant funding, it's because it's an important part of our mission and it's important to the population we serve. So let us know if your leadership has talked, if your board has discussed this, if they've tried something in the past before or wanted to try it in the past. This is a priority for the organization as a whole. Financial capability work is an area you're growing. Whatever it is that makes VITA very important to your organization, let us know that here. Then we have our proposed outcomes. These are the same as last year. These are the results that you intend to see at your site that are going to be made possible through funding. So as we had last year, you'll put the number of 2024 federal tax returns prepared electronically as well as by paper, the number of prior year federal tax returns filed, the number of volunteers you intend to train, and the number of site coordinators or site managers you intend to train. We'll also have a spot for the number of tax sites you plan to operate. If you have additional outcomes that you would like to include, if you would like us to know about that you're striving for, please include that here. It'll be helpful for us while we're supporting you throughout the season. Right, we have a special new question for our returners. It's not mandatory because if anyone's new, we don't want them to have to complete it, but it is mandatory for our returners. We are really excited to learn how you plan to grow and strengthen your VITA program this season. So let us know what's new, right? What are areas you're thinking of expanding or improving your training or increasing the capacity at your site? Let us know how this funding will help you become a stronger and even stronger than before site than you all were last year. We will ask you for what service delivery models you intend to use for your VITA program. We've got traditional in-person, drop-off, virtual taxes using Get Your Refund, virtual taxes using a different platform, FSA or facilitated self-assistance. It shouldn't say my free taxes there. I'm going to get rid of that. And then hybrid or combo services and other. As you all know who are returners, each model has certain advantages and disadvantages depending on the needs of your organization, the communities you serve, the spaces you operate in. We just want to know what mix of sites we are having. So as just a quick overview, traditional in-person VITA is when a program completes tax returns with volunteers and clients in person and on site the whole time. This is how most VITA programs operated pre-pandemic. And it is how most continue to operate now that we are moving away from the height of the pandemic. Staff schedule appointments in advance with clients or might accept walk-ins. Volunteers and site coordinators are on site where they complete intake interview, prep, and quality review all on site. The return is finished in that one appointment. Drop-off programs are like traditional in-person programs with modifications to include the use of off-site tax preparers. So this is typically used by organizations who don't have the capacity to operate traditional in-person program, but have client demographics who may struggle to navigate the technological aspects of a completely virtual program. So drop-off programs, sometimes we call them intake only, are organizations that provide in-person and on-site intake and interview with clients, but then they scan the client's documents and the tax return is either prepared remotely or at another time and quality reviewed via the phone or video call with the client, and then the client returns only to sign and receive their copy of the tax return. Virtual service delivery. What we're talking about here is tax returns that are completely virtual, not drop off, not intake only if you are doing everything from intake, interview, all the way through quality review and signature virtually. Many people use Get Your Refund for this. That's what was introduced in 2020, but there are other platforms as well. And facilitated self-assistance, or FSA, is where the client is actually preparing their own return, while a certified volunteer from your organization provides guidance and support to the client throughout the process. This is typically done through My Free Taxes, which uses VITA's tax software. And this is typically done by organizations who would like to increase the number of clients they're able to work with, but their clients are technologically savvy, returns are not terribly complex, and staff are prepared to support in a more hands-off way. For FSA, you do have to have a separate SIDN. So if something you're interested in is offering FSA as well, let me know and we'll help you reach out to your spec manager and make sure that you're able to operate that type of site. And then hybrid or combo services, of course, is any mixture of these. So be sure to take some time to think about which service delivery models you do use, particularly identifying if you use drop-off and intake only versus virtual, which is completely virtual. And if you are adding in new models, think about which ones make most sense for your organization before submitting your proposal for funding. The next section you'll complete is the volunteer recruitment and training plan. As you all know, the V in VITA stands for volunteers. So having a plan in place for the volunteer aspect of your program is crucial. We want to hear how you plan to recruit and secure volunteers for tax season, including who you're targeting with recruitment, where you're recruiting, what recruitment materials you use, flyers, newsletters, etc. If you have an existing pool of VITA volunteers, which many of you do, you can tell us about how your organization keeps these volunteers engaged and coming back year after year, how you plan to honor their commitment to the program. You can also share any data or numbers about the number of volunteers you expect to return versus new volunteers you plan to recruit or engage. If you're working with another organization that's supplying volunteers, a university, another nonprofit, you can tell us about that too. And let us know who will be managing your volunteers as well. Be sure to explain how your volunteers will complete their mandatory training and IRS VITA certification exams. What method do you plan to use for your training? Will they use Link and Learn, self-study, or VITA Train? If you are not sure or you think you want support from CASH to train or even recruit volunteers, please share that with us here. We'll be able to get you connected to Madison, who is our volunteer coordinator, and identify what areas you would like support in. Next, you'll be asked to describe your plan to conduct outreach and get the word out to prospective clients. We'd like to know when you plan to promote your program. For example, what you're doing in the fall before the season really starts to begin spreading the word, and what you're going to be doing in January and February to drive clients to actually making appointments. What messages, methods, materials, channels are you using? Is it social media, posters, website, newsletters, in person, spreading the word? Whatever you plan to use to get the word out about your program. For programs in the Baltimore area, we want to hear about how you will support CASH in doing outreach efforts for the entire area. As you all know who are in the Baltimore area, we often have shared materials that advertise all of our services. How can you help us promote that information? For everybody, we want to know who your outreach partners are, how you plan to use social media to get the word out even further. There's also going to be a section at the end of the application portal for you to upload any flyers or newsletters, other outreach materials, so the evaluation team has examples of what your organization uses or plans to use. Here you can also share if you're offering services to any special populations, such as providing interpreters to individuals who are hard of hearing, individuals who use sign language, or translators to clients with limited English proficiency, and how that outreach will be conducted as well. All right. Next, we ask how your organization intends to provide financial capability services alongside your VITA program. You all who've been working with CASH for a long time know that we don't want the tax time to be isolated away from the rest of the client's financial life. We want to know how we're building holistic programs that support clients year-round. So you can see from the list on the screen, financial capability services might range from offering your clients financial coaching, public benefit screenings, opportunities to sign up for financial education classes, helping them apply for the Maryland homeowner or renter's credit. Think of it as any service that is designed to improve the financial well-being of your clients, but that is not necessarily directly related to the tax preparation process. It's not part of the normal VITA intake interview, prep, and quality review. We want to hear about the services you're providing either specifically during tax season, but also throughout the rest of the year, and how they're incorporated and advertised at your site. Additionally, tax time savings is really important to Cash, and it's something that is unique to tax season and the tax time moment. We repeat it over and over again during trainings and outreach events. The tax refund is often the largest influx of cash that many of our clients receive in a year. However, we know that this cash is not always planned for, right? So we use the tax time as a crucial moment where we can meet clients where they are, encouraging them to deposit their refund into a safe financial product, or by meeting them with tax time savings messages that encourage them to save all or some of their refund in exchange for a prize or some other incentive. This one is a checkbox option, so you can indicate one or more of these programs that you plan on offering. And also, if you do not currently have a game plan for tax time savings, please check the bottom box and request support from Cash in developing programming that will work for your site. Next, we'd like to hear about your proposed staffing structure for your program. Like I said before, it's required by the IRS and by Cash that you have at least 2 site managers for every site location. If there's multiple site locations that operate on different days, those site managers can move between them, but there need to be 2 site managers for every site. And we'd like to hear about how you're planning to provide adequate coverage and support to your site or multiple sites. Tell us how you plan to identify your site coordinators or managers, what role existing staff will have in operating the site. If you'd like to share site coordinators and financial administrators qualifications, that will be helpful to us. And again, for this section in particular, we encourage you to review the VITA Site Coordinator Handbook to make sure you have adequately planned for identifying and hiring tax site managers in compliance with VITA guidelines. We will be real here. We know that staffing is a challenge for VITA programs. So we really just want to see how your organization is thinking through this and addressing the challenge of finding staff to run your program. And please let us know if there's areas in which we can support. If you're looking for ideas on how to recruit people, where to find them, you can include that here or reach out to anybody on the Cash team. Great, program quality. We also, of course, in the VITA way, need you to inspire confidence in your program by sharing what processes and procedures you have in place to ensure that you're operating a high quality free tax preparation program. For those of you who have run a VITA program in the past, you can briefly detail how you follow the IRS quality site requirements. Things like ensuring your volunteers are certified and have volunteer agreements in, completing the intake and interview process and quality review process with fidelity, and so on. If you're not sure of what the quality site requirements are, or you need a refresher, you can check out publication 5166, the IRS volunteer quality site requirements, but they are also in the site coordinator handbook. So you can just go to one IRS publication. If you're new to the VITA world, then you can tell us about your performance in other areas, how great you are at delivering services you already offer, what are some ways you monitor and ensure quality within your existing programs, and how would you apply that to your tax program? All right, then we'd like you to tell us how you plan to ensure your site is accessible for individuals with disabilities, ensuring there's sufficient waiting room and parking, accessible to folks from around your area. And we'd love to know if you're planning to provide services in languages other than English. All right, next, the big part you've all been waiting for. We, of course, want to hear about your total budget. The budget narrative is an option for you to give a brief summary about that. And tell us where the funds that you're applying for will go, as well as what other funding you potentially will have for the program. We understand that some funding will still be pending by the time you submit this proposal. That is okay. This does not have to be signing that this is the money you definitely have, but we would like for you to write a bit about confirmed funding, as well as any pending VITA program funding from sources other than Cash for the upcoming tax year. We're not expecting you to write a ton of text here because you're going to actually upload a program budget, but feel free to use this section as a list of actual and potential funders, a little funding narrative, if you are still in the process of identifying those people. We expect that for most partners, Cash is not the sole funder for your VITA program, and that your organization is both obtaining grants from other organizations and foundations, as well as supplying funding through your general operating budget. So let us know what the situation is in this budget narrative. in the total budget. The budget narrative, on the other hand, is where we'd like you to explain how you plan to spend the VITA funds that you're requesting from cash specifically. This is the section I mentioned earlier. If you are asking for a large increase compared to last year, where is that cost coming from? How are you planning to grow? We'd love to know with some detail how your organization plans to allocate the funding that you would like to receive, whether that's to salaries, additional staff than in the past, equipment, space rental, so on and so forth. How is this funding this year going to improve your site? A few things to highlight: if your organization plans to use more than 10% of requested funds for financial capability services, we request some additional details on what that funding is specifically for. We'd also like to hear about your organization's track record and strength with respect to fiscal management and reporting procedures, since all grantees are expected to submit invoices in a timely manner in accordance with their grant agreement, as well as maintain an accurate record of volunteer and staff hours and other expenses. We'd like to hear how your organization plans to manage and comply with our grant requirements, how you've done so in the past, or how you're doing so with other programs in your organization's work, if you haven't operated a VITA program yet. All right, and then finally, you'll be prompted to agree to a statement about the grant requirements that were outlined in the introduction and that we read through at the beginning of this webinar. These are the same ones, but just notifying that if you are awarded the grant, these are the things you will be signing to agree to in your official grant agreement. Then the last step will be to upload your supporting documents. The number one most important thing, the only thing that is required, is a complete budget using Cash's budget template. This is the new budget template we introduced last year. We are no longer using the IRS budget template. I hope you all are just as happy as I am about that. We'll be using the Excel budget template that we shared last year. You can download that budget template directly from the Common Grant application platform, complete it, and upload it to this section. If your organization has a fiscal sponsor, this is also where you'll need to include relevant documentation, like your sponsor letter here. And then this is also where you can upload any tax season collateral, like outreach flyers, newsletters, social media, editorial calendar, and so on, anything that you think will strengthen your application. For that budget template I just mentioned, like I said, it's going to be available in the Common Grant application platform. All you'll need to do is download the budget template, complete it, and then re-upload it. Please note that this is the format we need you to use for this year. The goal is that it's easier than the IRS form, but we still do need to have a shared format for everyone so that we can do good reporting to our grantors on the other side of this. It includes line items for training, travel reimbursements, general travel reimbursements, food for volunteers, salary costs, general office supplies, audit services, marketing, publicity, volunteer services, volunteer recognition, interpretation, everything. Your IT costs, technology, space rentals. Be sure to review the budget template closely and complete it thoroughly. I really want to point out, particularly for the salary and fringe costs, make sure you identify the person either by their first and last name or by their role. Maybe it's site manager. If you don't know the person specifically, that's okay. Just put the role, but who those salary costs are going to. All you'll need to fill out is the budget line. The interim and final sections are for as we go through the actual invoicing process. Then there's a second tab on the page. This is where we'd like you to list, any matching funds that your organization is securing and what those funds are covering. Odetta asked, do we know whether the mandatory training will have a virtual option? Yes, we will have a virtual option open. If you are a new site manager, we will require, unless there is an extenuating circumstance, that anyone who is a new site manager come to a few days of in-person training, but we will offer returning site manager training both virtually and in person. So stay tuned for those dates. It'll be in early December. All right, so just as a reminder, we are currently accepting proposals and we will continue to accept through the night of Monday, September 30th. Then the cash grant reading team will review proposals and notify your organization about our funding decision by Friday, November 15th. If we have questions, if we need anything, we will reach out to you. We won't just mix an application. You guys know us for the most part. So we might follow up with questions, but we will let you know final decisions by the November 15th. And then for all accepted applications, a mandatory webinar will be held on Wednesday, December 4th. And each grantee's financial or development contact must attend this webinar, and program contacts are welcome to attend as well. We anticipate that this webinar, along with a frequently asked questions document, will be made publicly available on the website, cashmd.org, by the end of this month, end of July. I will also just send the link directly to you all so that you have it and can review it. Remember, there's also that video on YouTube. Megan shared a link, and we'll include it in a follow-up email of how to use the Common Grant application platform. And know that Megan and I and the rest of the CASH team, Sarah and Robin too, are here if you would like support with your application, if you have questions, if there's anything we can clarify as you go through this process. And please, as you are looking through the application, please share it with your networks. If there are other organizations you know who might be interested in applying for funding and opening a VITA site, please feel free to share it with them. The application is open to the public as long as they are an organization that has a Maryland presence and are either a 501(c) or have fiscal sponsorship from a 501(c). All right, I have another question from Jasmine. It can be tough for smaller organizations to cash flow the VITA program for approximately 4 months before payment. Is CASH considering any opportunities in the future to avoid that challenge? That is a great question, Jasmine. I'm assuming you mean for funding at the start of the grant period, right? October through March. That is a great question. I will have to ask Robin. My biggest follow-up would be if that is a situation and if you need the cash on hand earlier, reach out to me and to Robin and we will find a way to make it happen, right? If you need to pay salaries, if you need to make investments in things, we want to do what we can to get your program up and running. So let us know what your need is and we will do everything we can to make it happen. All right. If you are not signed up for CASH's e-news and you want to know what's going on with CASH, feel free to sign up via this link. It's not just about free tax prep, but also our financial capability work and policy initiatives. There's a QR code and Megan dropped the link in the chat. And that will get you signed up to hear from us more frequently. If anyone else has any other questions, I'll stay on. You also know you can email me anytime, lucy@cashmd.org. That's it for the information I have for you today. And be sure to check back on the website as well as just check your email for a recording of this webinar and the FAQ document. As you all have questions, if you do have questions or need clarification, please reach out to us. And we are really excited to see those applications come in and continue to work together moving into a new tax season. Thanks y'all for being here. Feel free to hop off, or if you have questions, feel free to either come off mute or drop them in the chat.